Hello, welcome to Cinema Savvy, and welcome to our weekly Mandalorian reviews. Sadly, this is the last one of the series. We are at the finale. This is Chapter 16, The Rescue. Now, we have a lot to talk about. I think I posted that on Twitter as soon as I saw the episode. I was like, this is going to be a fun one tonight. And once again, same as last week, we're joined with Dave. Because it's almost like a kind of a two-parter going into the finale, and we absolutely had to bring you back on this one, especially with that ending, which we will get onto towards the end. But before we dive in completely, we'll just quickly go over the socials because we have a lot to talk about today.
Absolutely, guys. As we said, this is the last one we're going to be on for season 2. This is quite sad. We're up to chapter 16, and we don't know when it's coming back. There's talk of December 2021, but we've also got another December 2021 to talk about at the end of the video with a credit scene announcement. But as usual, the best way to find out what we're going to do, when we're going to be going live, is to find us on social media. That is on Facebook at Cinema Savvy, Twitter at Cinema_Savvy. And as we always say, the best thing to find out what we're going to do is to help us on those social media accounts. Then we've got our sort of algorithm stuff, which we keep boring you with. So obviously do help us, do like, do comment. And if you want to share it, if you enjoyed it, do press that subscribe button. We've got a lot more things coming out. We've got a big thing we're going to do this Saturday. Tomorrow, Christ. We're kicking off the Karate Kid reviews in the build-up to Cobra Kai Season 3. So do check that out. That's going to be up tomorrow. We'll have more details on social media. And as we said, we are here with Dave joining us once again to round out our discussions for the Mandalorian Season 2. And the best way to find Dave is on youtube.com/thelifeofbrian, as we're going to throw that in there for him. But it feels kind of sad, before we even really get into it, that this is the final Mando video. It's been 7 weeks of Friday nights talking this. And yeah, something major happened, which you all know why you're here. You clicked our thumbnail. If you saw our Twitter video, we've got a great Matthew McConaughey meme video doing the rounds, if you've seen it now. But we're going to save that till the end because it is one of the final things in the episode. So if you want to get to the Luke Skywalker stuff, it's wow. Who would have thought we'd be saying Luke Skywalker stuff in a Mandalorian episode in 2020? Yeah, it's as an entry point, easily one of the most incredible moments in Star Wars history. But we're going to save all this talk for the end because I guess we got to begin with the opening scene. We'll get there. We all want to get there. We'll get there eventually.
Well, first off, you had the Peyton Reed thing, right? So we were talking about last week, and we were kind of predicting who we think might have been directing this episode. It was the mystery director, the one who hadn't been announced yet, and of course it was the finale. Names like George Lucas, Rian Johnson were thrown out there. Maybe it was Favreau coming back. Maybe it was Filoni. And then the name Peyton Reed kind of anticlimactically dropped at some point on socials, and I saw the memes. Everyone was freaking out. I was freaking out a little bit as well. Was the Ant-Man alien going to appear again from the Cantina bar? We could only hope, but
under the hood.
He has a name now. He has a name.
I'm sure he does. There's probably a Wikipedia article on him.
He's called Dr. Mandible.
Inspired. Sounds like a Beast Wars villain. Yeah, no, so going into it, I was just like, oh, well, this finale could go either way. And actually, this week in particular, so George, as I mentioned, you always get to the episode before me, and sometimes you kind of give me a hint like, this one's good, like, look out for this, there's this moment going to happen. I specifically said to you, I don't want to know, I want to know when you've watched it, but don't tell me if it's good, don't tell me if it's bad, because I just want to go into this thing completely cold. After I watched the episode, I completely blew your phone up with lots and lots of voice messages, like, respond now, respond, I need to talk about this. Yeah, so sort of going into it, I honestly didn't know what to make of it. I didn't really know where it was heading. We knew the rough plot point that they were there to rescue Baby Yoda, and we hoped that Gideon would do something villainous, and that was pretty much it, but the specifics of it we didn't know at all. So I kind of appreciated it for that, and I was not disappointed by the end of this thing. So those were sort of like my initial thoughts before going into this.
Yeah, I think it was all the same that Peyton Reed, you're right, he was announced, and everyone was kind of like, oh, all right, then okay, we'll see what it's like. We'll give it a chance. And I mean, I think we said just before we came out, is it the best episode of Mandalorian we've had? I don't think so. I don't rank it that highly, but in moments, it has probably the best, like Joseph, probably one of the greatest moments that we've ever had in Star Wars. It was an amazing moment. But yeah, to be honest, not a lot happens in the episode to get to that point. There's our protagonist, the main bad guy robots, they're done away with quite quickly and things. So, but yeah, it was certainly wasn't what I expected of the episode. I expected a recovery mission, but certainly not what we got.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. The Peyton Reed stuff, it's I don't feel bad for him because Pedro's Wonder Woman's come out in cinemas, so all the press has come out this week, and you've got Patty Jenkins, who's now directing Star Wars. You've got Gal Gadot. You've got Pedro Pascal, who now is Star Wars, and 90% of the junkets were asking you, Patty Jenkins, so talk to us about Rogue Squadron. Pedro Pascal, so talk to us about The Mandalorian. Hi, Gal. How you doing? How was it to be Wonder Woman again? So a couple of things let slip. Some more on YouTuber. You might have heard of her. That's what I'm going to give. She claimed that he wants to stop wearing the helmet because his ego is getting in the way. A bit of Jennifer Lawrence X-Men vibe. And someone stupid asked him that on BBC. And I think it was Graham Norton. Pedro's like, no, not in a million years. He goes, I heard these rumors. He goes, I'm in it for the story, man. That's what we agreed. That's like how we've had that discussion. And then in another interview, he then dropped, oh yeah, Peyton came back and did the finale. I was like, it's Thursday. It's tomorrow. I have this like 1%. I think I sent it to you, Chris, a GIF. It's the Jim Carrey. So you're telling me there's a chance GIF just because they didn't say it wasn't George Lucas or Rian Johnson. And it was Peyton Reed. And I was like, oh, like I really like Ant-Man, and I don't mind Ant-Man 2. And I didn't mind his episode in this. But it's not George Lucas, and it's not Rian Johnson. And I think he did a great job today. And I think ultimately the key with those as well, people want to get into he directed that episode. He didn't write that episode. He didn't produce that episode. He's not the showrunner. He's brought in to direct the episodes that are given to him on a plate like most TV. So I'll always defend, certainly more in TV, directors have far less story devices to go with. Some of them get their input, some of them don't. And I think he did a stellar job today, and fair play to him. I happily say I was in the wrong category. I don't think either of the two directors could have done what happened today in terms of some of the story choices. But as a build-up, yeah, the Peyton Reed stuff was. You know what I will say, actually, ignore that. If we hadn't known the directors today, I would have got pandemonium about who it would have been during the episode. So I'm glad we actually knew before, just to settle the nerves.
I still find it weird that knowing that moment that's coming with Luke, that Jon Favreau gave it to Peyton Reed. I'm surprised that big a moment in Star Wars history was then going, well, you can direct the episode. I would have thought like that would have been certainly Favreau, if he's written all the episodes, to have such a momentous moment that you wouldn't want to handle that yourself. Seems just a very strange choice.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that I thought it was a very well directed, even like just going back to like Peyton Reed, just like how it was structured, certain shot choices and everything like that, especially the build up at the very end, how it was cutting from sort of security cam footage to the real thing back, and the reactions and everything. I thought that was masterfully done, and it really did help to that build up. And I thought the action was well directed as well. The shot choice is really good during the action scenes. You could tell everything that was going on. It wasn't like an absolute mess or anything like that. But I kind of echo Dave's opinions on this episode in that I don't think it's one of the best episodes. And honestly, up until the very end, I thought it was a very average episode. And I was like, oh, they need to do something. And they did something. And I think the last 10 minutes of this episode saved the rest of the episode for me, definitely. And I think just, again, sort of like broad negatives, I guess, before we go into it and like pick it apart individually, scene by scene. You do have like a big ensemble of characters in this episode, and honestly, I don't feel like I know any of them. You've got like Ming-Na Wen, who, fine actress, but I couldn't tell you much about the character's personality. Really, I'd say, Cara Dune, I've mentioned in season 1 that, and George, I know you've got your opinions, but Cara Dune, she's imposing. She's great in a fight. She's a good imposing figure, and I like the character, but I wanted more from her character. And I don't feel like I did by season 2 either. So there was her. There's Bo-Katan, who I know has this extended history in the Clone Wars and everything like that. But in terms of her character in this, she was kind of one note for me, and I didn't really have much of a personality for her. And then there's also her sidekick, who maybe has like 3 lines in the entire thing. So when you have a majority of the episode of those going off on their adventure, I was like, anything could happen to them, and I wouldn't really care, to be honest, because I don't really know them. And I feel that that's a shame of season 2 in that it's done wonders for Mando and his development, and I don't have a problem with what they've done with Grogu, with the whole Jedi thing with Ahsoka, Luke, and Mando himself. I've loved all that stuff. I've loved the build of Gideon as well. But it's just a shame that some of those other ones, like Apollo Creed as well, not in this episode. He is in 1 episode. Out of 8 episodes, he is in 1. So the characterization of people let me down a little bit. And I'll get into my overall thoughts of season 2 at the end and where I think it's peaked and some of the slight concerns I might have for the future. But that side of stuff was letting me down a little bit, but I think it really pulled it all together by the end. I would have liked to have seen more characterization overall for them, or just a bit of personality, really.
Yeah, I think I'm in a similar camp that all these characters, we kind of joked last week, like, oh, we're going to get like episode 6 from season 1, but like with better supporting characters, and we did. And it's Chris, you mentioned actually some of these characters. I love Fennec. Like, I really enjoyed seeing her. We don't know anything about her. She's cool. It's like the epitome of that Star Wars fun character. Like, they're cool now. They've got a welcome place, and she's a badass with a gun. And we've got the Mandalorians in. Boba, who I think's done his story arc in this series. You know, I've never been a Boba Fett fan. I've always thought it was overhyped. I prefer Jango Fett. For what they've done for Boba this season, to give him that character, give him that history, I wouldn't say redemption arc as such, but they've made him more interesting in the last sort of 2 weeks than he had been in 40 years to me. And it is about Mando, and that is the key. I've followed that story very well. But when it's the finale, certainly I'm going to compare it lots to last year's finale, because that's, I think, right now the crowning achievement of The Mandalorian was the Taika Waititi episode. Everything was on point, and they're different stakes. That's, you know, ironically, again, got to get Baby Yoda back, right? That happened in the opening scene in the last series. Obviously, very different circumstances. That was introducing us to Moff Gideon. This was more, we're going to develop in that bit further. We're going to see him in action, see a bit more stuff from him, the sort of tactician he is. And it goes so easy, and it doesn't feel like a finale until the last 20 minutes. Until they're on the bridge, all of them. You know, you get the great fight of the Death Troopers, which was as like a glance. Chris, you messaged me while you were watching. I was like, I'm not going to spoil it. I'm not going to spoil it. I was like, but I'm not allowing Chris to say they've gone out the airlock. I was like, I was in that similar position at 8 a.m. I was like, I don't want to be the one to do it. I did say, just wait. I think I wrote, just wait. You know, they hype these up, and we get that one great fight, and then, you know, out the airlock, and they come back later for an exceptional scene. But yeah, it didn't feel like a season finale until the end, and I think that's the other thing. And I've kind of ingrained this into me now that we don't know how many series they're going to be, because I've took on most shows, you know, it's like series 01E02 for like episode 2. Whereas with the Mandalorian, I'm so accustomed to the chapters, I keep saying every week that I don't know what chapter we're at and where we are. So, I mean, I know it's chapter 16, but is there 24 chapters? Is there 32 chapters? Is there 40? And where are we in the timeline? Because it's not done, I think, personally for me, season. I can see there are season arcs in there, but it feels like one continuous journey. And as before we get into the season 3 stuff, probably then what we might think about it, I think it's very open compared to the ending of season 1 of what they can do now. It's very, very open. There's some things we're going to expect, but season 1 ended with the season 2, we're going to find a Jedi and drop them off. Whereas season 3 is like, where? And that's what I'm kind of excited for at a glance.
They kind of left a big story arc just kind of open. Like, they kind of introduced the Bo-Katan stuff right at the end, but then didn't follow up on it at all. There was nothing spoken after kind of that little segment about it. Even I expected once Luke had gone with Grogu that we might get a little back with them before we moved on, but it was just kind of left. It was like, oh, all right, we're not getting anything further. Even like the Fett stuff we'll talk about later, especially afterwards, maybe that would have been in the episode. But yeah, that was very jarring for me. It just kind of stopped once that had finished. That scene was like, look at this amazing scene, and we're done with the rest of them. We'll find out about them in a year or two.
Yeah, no, same here. And I was just looking at Carl's comment, actually. I was going to bring this up at the end, because this is sort of like, I think they handled it well, but it's sort of like a cause for concern for me a little bit. He's put, season 2 definitely needs you to know too much information about the Clone Wars and Rebels to fully understand what is going on. I definitely think that is a big thing in it. I know of people that have watched it with no knowledge of it and have followed it okay. That's why I'm not going to come down too hard on it. But, you know, with this one, when the initial casting announcement came out, and we had Bo-Katan, we had Ahsoka, we had Boba Fett, had all of these characters, and, you know, me and you, George, we were speaking for a long time on it, saying that we're really concerned if they do go down this road, how much is too much, you know, fan service, whatever you want to call it, bringing these characters back. I think that on the one hand, it can make the universe feel very small, that it's always happening to these characters. And I think that we'll probably compare season 1 and season 2 at the end. I know you've said it's one story, but I kind of fall into two weird categories with this. I think that season 2 definitely is better in terms of its narrative pace, in that, especially the last half of the episode, it was like boom, 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 next episode, we're advancing this story and we're actually getting somewhere. We're raising questions, we're answering questions, and that was great, and I really appreciate that stuff. But on the other hand, everything felt new, kind of, apart from episode 5 in Mandalorian season 1. It felt like it was almost creating its own little isolated universe away from everything. And now we are getting things like R2-D2, Luke Skywalker, and all of these things connecting to it. And I think that maybe season 1 perhaps kept the focus more on Mando as a character. And I know that I think that I like his arc in this, and the whole removing of the helmet thing kind of sums everything up, ties it all in a neat little bow, and I really do appreciate that stuff in this season. But we even mentioned, like, there was a series of episodes where, I feel like Mando took a back seat in this episode because they're pushing Ahsoka or Bo-Katan or whatever it happens to be. And that's where I've kind of have the divide. I think that season 1 maybe was tighter in terms of keeping it self-contained. But on the other side, it's great that it is opening up and going into all these different directions. So I'm weird flip-flopping between the two at the moment. I haven't quite gathered my thoughts as to which camp I'm in.
It reminds me a lot like Star Wars Rebels. I watched the first episode of season 1. I was like, Christ almighty, no thank you. And I ended up watching the end of season 1. It's like, Ahsoka's in it, spoiler alert. And I remember getting, I churned through and the last couple of like, oh wow, this is actually really good. I'm interested to see what they do. Ahsoka's back. And then season 2 came. And it was slowly getting to a bigger picture. It's like, and here's Maul and here's Vader. And I was like, okay. I was like, we've gone away from the Saturday cartoon of Happy Family Disney, because that's what the first half of series 1 is. And season 1 was like, this was a good success. Now we're going to give Filoni the reins, do what he wants to do, and finish Clone Wars arcs. I think that's probably the best way of doing it. And that's a lot of what Rebels became. And Rebels outgrew what it set up in 1. And I'm seeing some stark comparisons. Granted, he's not the showrunner on this, but he is the number 2 in command. He would have had a heavy influence, especially obviously with the Ahsoka stuff, the Bo-Katan stuff. And this is where I'm really intrigued by, because I don't know where it's heading. I'm now getting these Rebels vibes. And it's good for me because I'm very fortunate. I'm in that situation. I say every week that I watch with my dad. We'll get to the Luke reel later, but it's interesting watching it with him because he doesn't care for the animated stuff. Like, he doesn't watch that stuff. And I was like, are you following this good? He's like, yeah, it's fine. Like, it's very basic. So it's really intriguing. Whereas I've got a friend from work who's just watched Mandalorian. She would text me earlier to say she watched it. She's not seen the films. And it's like, she said, I feel like I've missed out on something because I've not seen the films.
It's called New Hope Empire.
Oh, we've had this discussion. I've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is the way to do it. But it's that, like, this is fascinating. It's bringing them into it, and then Say's finally is like, "Oh, I was like, imagine if you're a new fan and just a Jedi." Like, whereas to us, like, we're 3 people crying, and most people were crying. Everyone was crying. It's been a beautiful day for many great reasons. But I see those points, and this is why I'm interested where it goes next, because jumping in, Bo-Katan, I think, is going to be set up as a potential villain down the line. Very expected turn at some point. Ahsoka, you're right. She's got the TV series on paper. She's gone. Boba's got his book. He's gone. And he might come back. I still don't know where that ended, but it's right. It was such a sudden cliffhanger. The door shuts and the episode ends. I was like, are we going to get like an epilogue scene or something for them to, like, are they just, is season 3 going to start with them on the bridge? Like, how are they playing this? And it was a beautiful, phenomenal moment, and it's so important. And I get why they wanted to close on that, because it was a perfect way to close on it. But then I feel like there's just something, if it's 30 seconds, if it's 1 minute, they're just kind of awkwardly there. It's like the end of The Incredibles. Yeah. It's like, oh, look, the family's there. Very different. But yeah, it was weird like that. I don't know if other people have got those thoughts, because it's been interesting getting different viewpoints. I think Star Wars has evolved so far. We always used to speak about, today's the 5-year anniversary of The Force Awakens. Back then it was like, there's going to be new fans, there's the prequel fans, there's the older fans. Now it's like, oh, like the Clone Wars generation is actually a thing. I never thought that would be real. The Clone Wars generation is a thing. We've got the sequel trilogy fans, and we've got still the prequels, the originals, and then we're going to have a new generation, which is the Mandalorian fans. So it's always intriguing now to figure out where people are coming from, what their viewpoints are. And I think, like I said, I'm not going to go off of one person, 2 people I speak to, but I think maybe until today, I'll talk about Luke and then about how that stuff went down, but luckily with Bo-Katan, it's not been I am XYZ of XYZ ABC to 3DD. It's not done that. You must know my history to accept me. Obviously, it helps big time for the rest of us. But in terms of side characters, it's interesting that I know full well, like, Sasha Banks is in it again, the wrestler, and she finally got to do a wrestling move this week. But it's kind of like, oh, like, she's back. Like, okay, hi. And then it is this weird supporting group, like, it's the video game comparison, right? You'll be on a side quest with your friends, and then you'll, like, send them off after the level's over because you've done your main part as the main character, and they can go away, and you'll pick them up next time you're in their town. That's how Mando's going, and I enjoy it. But it is certainly interesting in terms of comparison points to season 1 as well. It is that very small, confined, and then, okay, it's working, let's just go with it and expand. And I sense that.
It did just feel like a few too many characters were put in the last episode. I don't know why Fennec Shand really needed to get off Slave One with Boba Fett when her story is with him, and very much obviously she is going to continue on with him. Why she had to get the ship, I don't see why Bo-Katan had to be picked up with another Mandalorian. I just felt there was just too many characters kind of pushed in, where they could have just had a very basic crew. Mandalorian going off to find the child, and then like. Gina Carrero's character. His name's literally just going out of my head. Cara Dune. Sorry, yeah. I know, literally, and and the Mandalorian going off doing that. So I think it was just a few too many characters pushed together that we didn't really need to tell the same story. They didn't really serve much purpose in it.
Yeah, and I mean, the plan this time was kind of just another smash and grab, really, wasn't it? It was just, let's pilot this thing in there, let's shoot the place up, shoot, and then... And this was another thing with me, and this has been consistent of this series, and I want to get all my negatives out of the way. I did like this episode. I very much enjoyed this episode. I do just want to point that out, but there was a kind of evident lack of tension in this episode for me, especially for a finale. We kept talking about that, or who's going to die this episode. It feels like, Gideon needs to do something villainous, or maybe the Dark Troopers or Dubstep Troopers, shall we call it? We'll get onto that in a minute. It feels like they need to do something. They need to prove themselves. They need to prove their villainy. And just for a change of pace, I think the only character really in the main cast who's died was, Nick Nolte.
IG-11.
Or IG-11.
Well, we've had two.
Yeah, IG went as well.
Exactly,
and both season 1.
Yeah, and, that's, I mean, I think I'm with you. I think the finale episode of season 1 probably is my favorite episode, just in terms of that narrative drive behind it, and there being real stakes and characters dying in that final 2-parter. And I feel like that was lacking this season. Every single character I never once felt was going to die, was going to get hurt, was going to get shot in any way. You've got Mando, who's basically playing with God mode cheats on. He's an invincible character with his armor. You can't damage him. So when he goes up against the Dark Trooper one-on-one, and you're like, oh, right, okay, now show me what you're made of. And it's like punching him repeatedly in the helmet. If that helmet would have dented, or if the visor would have cracked, just an example of he can be hurt. There is a chance that he could really get out of this. But, it's intact, and then he's got an indestructible spear, and he just kills it straight away. And I thought, oh, well, if Mando then gets into a fight with any one of them in that room, he's going to come out on top. He's going to be fine because he can't be attacked. And then you've got all your other characters as well. Your very samey kind of supporting characters as well. Like all the ones you mentioned there, just like they're all the same kind of stoic, angsty, sort of miserable, proficient fighters that are good with a blaster. That's basically all of their characters together. So they're all indistinguishable to me. And none of them are getting hurt. None of them seem to be getting tired, out of breath in any way. And it takes away that human quality to me. And you're just running through a corridor shooting at stormtroopers. And I know that's Star Wars. I get that. But I think there are ways, even in the original trilogy, Leia gets shot in the arm in Return of the Jedi. It's a small thing, but it's just moments like that it does raise the stakes. It's like, oh, the villains do actually pose a threat. Otherwise, it's just like 10, 15 minutes of filler. And I think we've had that in a lot of episodes now. We had it with the Bo-Katan episode, which I mentioned, where they're running through the corridors of that Imperial shuttle, just shooting willy-nilly. We had the Bill Burr episode, which involved a lot of that, and it was very easy, and they didn't really get into much, hassle or anything like that. And we've had it in this one as well. We had it with the Boba Fett episode as well on Typhon. It just feels we've had more episodes this season where it has been that spectacle of killing stormtroopers left, right, and center. But I never felt in any of those episodes there was any real tension to the main protagonists.
Yeah, and I think as a stepping point, it did make me think. Going back to last season's finale, You've got Apollo Creed drinking the booze because he knows what's going to happen. And I know these guys are soldiers and they're warriors and stuff. They don't. You're right. The tension is a big thing, and I think because those Dark Troopers were hyped up the first time around, I just sat there like, okay, they're wiping the floor with these, but when these Dark Troopers arrive, stuff's going to go down. And that's how I felt. And we had that great fight with Mando. I thought, oh, he's got one of them. Let's see how a one-on-one fares, knowing there's like 20, 30 right behind the doors. And I loved that fight. Obviously, there was tension. It's right. When I watched on the rewatch today, when he's getting punched in the head, he goes like into the wall. And I know that is essentially like indestructible armor and whatnot. But it is that bulletproof sort of thing, and I didn't mind that fight. And then the airlock happened, and I'm glad they didn't stick with that because that was everyone. You can't hype these things up. You don't let these things hype baby for an airlock. Not if it's stormtroopers, I get it. That's fine. But when it's these they must be kept at minus 80 degrees, like the coronavirus vaccine and stuff like this, it was really strange. And yeah, I was expecting not necessarily a final, and this is where my thoughts collide because at the same point, there's no tension here. And then you get to Giancarlo Esposito as Moff Gideon. Once again, every moment he is in, he steals. Whether it's his unreal rapid fire fighting skills we've now seen, finally. Granted, he does get bested, as expected, by the Mandalorian. He planned the entire thing, and I don't know if this is me, or if this is too random, or if I'm jumping ahead too far. When you've got villains like him, I love the fact that they're smarter than the ordinary person because he says exactly what happens. They've arrived at the bridge. They've killed absolutely everyone. They're expecting me to be sat there waiting for them. And now they're panicking because I'm not there. I'm here. And it was just at that speech, I was like, oh my, I was like, where's this heading now? Because I like things like that. I know it's easy to do it, but I was like, this is a guy with the plan. We've seen him this year. He's outwitted them. He's outsmarted them. He's been prepared for these scenarios. And then he even feels believable, whether this is the sort of Breaking Bad side of him, 1 minute he's a drug dealer, a drug creator, the next he's selling chicken, fries store as a manager. Everything he does, he's phenomenal. And it was that scene of Mandalorian where he's just there like, I've got what I need from the baby. I've got his blood. You can take him. You've got a bond. I appreciate this. And for a couple of seconds, I was like, is he being genuine? Like, he's that good? Like, of course he can't be. Of course you can't trust him. But I was like, it's like, I believe him. Like, when you get a villain that's believable, it didn't feel like this over-the-top grandiose. We love the Emperor, don't get me wrong. I love that stuff for Star Wars, but I do like a villain like this who's a bit different, who you kind of want to sort of link. I will say, what films is it? Every time they speak, you linger on their words. I think I said that about Moff Gideon last season, and we get the fight scene, and then we got his game plan, which was the goal is for me to be back in the bridge with everyone here, knowing that this is how they've done it, and the Dark Troopers are going to come in and wipe them all out, and I'm free. I think he is incredible. I know I've hyped him up too much, and he didn't get massive amounts to do today because I've got one massive gripe, and this isn't taking away her Twitter profile. My biggest issue with this episode is Moff Gideon with the gun. It's teed up perfectly. He's got the gun under his cape and he's been thrown to the ground. It's Gina that's done it. She's had her order on speech at the start of the episode. And he gets his one chance to get the gun. He knows he's probably got a couple of shots. So what does he do? I'm just going to shoot the people in Beskar armor. Well, I mean, I know they haven't fully got it, but I was like, the main target, the easy one to kill, is stood right behind you. This is ridiculous nitpicking because I still enjoyed what happened, but we mentioned tension, we mentioned nothing happened. Why would a tactical genius in that situation just go for Bo-Katan? Why wouldn't you go for the person that's not wearing any armor or anything? It's basically, just her arms. And I don't know if it's a missed opportunity. I'm not taking Twitter bias into it. I think if you wanted to up those stakes, you needed. I know it sounds horrible, you need people to die to progress plot. It's a criticism of the MCU, but I didn't expect everyone to walk out of that today, and they've basically all walked out of it. Let's be honest, and it felt like the perfect plan until ultimately he doesn't do anything. And that's my worry. That's my thing. I don't mind it. I said this to you guys last week. My prediction is that Gideon will lose the fight to Mando. He will lose the Darksaber, but he will be alive and he will return. And that's exactly what's happened. But I just thought he might have took someone with him.
Mm-hmm. I think you're right. The tension stakes. The only tension we really kind of got that was kind of built at all was between Mandalorian and Bo-Katan, and that was fleeting for a few seconds after she wouldn't take it. When he just like, yeah, I yield. There's the saber, and there was that look between them. Was that moment of kind of like, yeah, you've got that, and I am going to have to defeat you, and almost like she'd had a change of the way she was viewing him to like you said, more of an enemy, not sidekick anymore, not someone who was helping on the mission. And that was really the biggest bit of tension in the episode between any characters. But I agree. I think Moff Gideon was absolutely superb. I almost think it was part of his plan to lose the Darksaber fairly easily because he knew that Mando would pick it up and that he would take him into the room. It seemed like it was all part of his plan. Like he knew step by step exactly what was going to happen until you saw his face drop when Luke turned up.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know if this was the first villain to do it, but it's certainly the one that stands out in my mind is like Joker in The Dark Knight. He's the villain that plans to be captured because he's got a bigger plan that's coming. And then since then, loads of films have done it, like Loki in the first Avengers film. I remember there's that whole bit in the middle act of that film.
So every like big blockbuster did it straight after The Dark Knight.
Exactly. And now it's a trope, right? It's just like, oh, it's the villain who's super smart and wants to be captured. But I was also kind of let down by the fight where he was bested quickly. But then as soon as he went like, oh, whoops, now she's going to have to fight you for the saber, I was like, okay. He's 100 steps ahead of everyone. And I love characters like that. I always do. So I really hope they have more plans for him in the next one. I think I'm with you, George. Like, he was great what they did. I would have just liked a little bit more that final big shocker moment where he takes someone out, or maybe it'd be a heroic moment depending on who he kills. But anyway, I'm not going to go into that.
Moving on.
He plays it fantastically. He's just he is kind of always the same. I always say that in everything I've seen him in. Yeah. But he is so good at playing that character type. So I don't have a problem with him in it at all. Going back to the Dark Troopers there in the airlock, because that was a moment. I messaged you as soon as they went out that airlock. Part of me thought, well, you know, they've done some spectacular things this season. Are they running out of money? It must be very expensive to do the CGI for a whole platoon of Dark Troopers. We're going to have him fight one, and then the others are going to be effectively dispatched in one. I was like, why would you put them in an airlock? As a villain, why would you even do that? Who is that? Maybe it's the Empire, you know, they put that small thermal exhaust port on a star, which goes right to the reactor. They build another one where you can fly a whole ship into it, and now they put their most prized enemy, their most prized weapon outside of an airlock. So I saw that and I thought, not too keen on that. I did like the one-on-one fight. I mentioned what my sort of gripes with the tension in it, but they were like Terminators. It was great. There was even the Terminator shot. I think it's on fire and it kind of does like the slow head tilt back to Mando. I was like, that's Terminator, and I love it. So that was great. And then I messaged you straight after, and George, and I was like, absolute bullshit. Like they've just got rid of those. Like I was hoping they do something, and that happens. You were just like, just keep watching. And you just left it at that. I was like, all right, well, it better be good. Like, oh, okay, this was really good. I'm happy now. This is fine. And then I'm happy with how they were dispatched at the end. So that was fine. I guess there's a cautionary tale in here that I just need to watch the episode and talk about it after.
I was being really honest. Like, it's a spoiler for me to tell you to keep watching. I was like, do I even write that? And I think, did I write like...
dreamed what would have happened anyway. So
no. And I was just there like, I was like, whatever you do, just don't go on Twitter because things are trending, which shouldn't be. Well, not they shouldn't be. They're allowing them to trend now. They just shut them off in the morning. And Christ Almighty, could you imagine if you woke up to that spoiler? I mean, fair play to Carl in the comments. That video I tweeted, I actually tweeted him like, "Hey mate, if you're not watched this, please don't go on our Twitter for today." It's only that Carl's practicing on our social media. So I did put spoiler klaxons in our video, but if you want to check out that Matthew McConaughey meme, have a look on our Twitter. That being said, yeah, the Dark Trooper stuff they reminded me of Emperor Zurg. I don't know why. It was their red eyes. Like,
those yellow balls he was firing out. Yeah.
I just kept thinking of like Toy Story, and I was like, why do I like these things? And I don't normally like those kind of robotic type things, but these were just
Hellbone as well. Like the
yes, the Hellbone. And
coming to Lightyear next year.
Thanks for that. I thought I left that behind in Disney live stream. Yeah.
Is there anything people want to talk about before the Luke moment? I'm trying to think if there's any more.
Only thing I thought was weird is the guy from Camino, the doctor who was in the ship and then never mentioned ever again once they got out.
Yeah, of course.
Don't know what happened to him. Don't know if he's alive. Don't know if he's just in the ship sitting around twiddling his thumbs, making no plans. But yeah, he was never mentioned again. Never. Don't know where he is.
Do you remember the whole community as well? Those poor YouTubers and poor Star Wars fans who agonized for weeks trying to track down a pinpoint location on the Star Wars galactic map as to the location of Gideon. And it's like, it all points to Pisana, that planet that no one cares about from episode 9, or Camino. And I was like, oh, Camino, this could be good. And it's just not any of those, is it, Rick? space, the final frontier. But we do have a comment from Carl, which I guess we can bring up, and then we can talk about the thing that we all want to talk about. Do you think it's significant for season 3 they now have Baby Yoda's blood? I do. I think I can come back into it. I think we need to know what it's used for. I think that's the one big plot point that hasn't been answered yet, really.
I'm intrigued with this because I don't know if he was lying to him or not. He said he's got what he needs from him, but didn't they want to kill him to take all the blood? Granted, he did try and headshot him at the end. They need. I'm glad they didn't explain that today because I like there was a lot to cram in. And I think the core of the story is Mando and Grogu, and I think they've nailed what they needed to do for this season, whilst pushing things forward for season 3. I think if they'd have, if Gideon, he's already had his villain speech. This was my plan. My plan was all of this, and it's pointing to Bo-Katan telling on you she can't be trusted. She's power hungry. I loved all that stuff. If he'd have then turned around and said, and by the way, the M count is actually the term for midichlorian, which is in the blood cells, which means that we're going to clone the Empire. I think you got enough teasers to be like, yes, they're working on something bigger. But we don't need to know that as the audience right away.
Chief Palpatine doesn't have a midichlorian count that high.
Oh, that should have been in.
Have we actually had like a name drop of the name Sheev in any live action Star Wars not counting?
Oh, I feel as if I've seen it somewhere.
Just the Christmas holiday special.
Yeah,
that's why.
It's the only place I think they've mentioned it, isn't it? I don't know. It's funny. Maybe that should have been episode 9. Maybe that would have won me over. Right, let's get into it. Let's talk about it. This is what you're all here for, right? Like, are you not entertained? Let's talk about this ending, right? Okay, this was like a checklist for me. This was like a step-by-step process of me sort of becoming aware of what was happening in front of me. So we see that X-Wing show up, and I was like, okay, method of transport in Star Wars, okay, that doesn't really narrow it down. Person comes out in a cloak. I'm like, okay, well, that could be any gender, could be anyone. Like, I've got an idea of who it could be, but no, it can't be. They won't do that. Then I see a green lightsaber. Well, actually, no. First, you see the security cam, and it almost looks white. I don't know if that was done intentionally. I was like, well, it would make sense for Ahsoka to come back because she was introduced, and tying it up, it's the finale. It could be her, and I'd be fine with that if it was Ahsoka. Then I see the single gloved hand. I was like, well, it's either Michael Jackson or it's Luke Skywalker. Like, it could go either way here.
And then he moonwalked up that corridor.
Wouldn't be the first time we see a moonwalk lightsaber move, right, in Star Wars history, so it could be. And then it was the green lightsaber, and then it was like falling into place, and my head was just going, they wouldn't tease it. They wouldn't give me this much hope to then reveal it to be anyone, like a complete, like maybe it's Ezra in a cloak with a green lightsaber wearing a glove, or something like that. All the countless names that were thrown out there. And then the fight in style was happening, and we get another corridor fight, and it's a scene that you love from Rogue One with Vader completely mirrored. It's like poetry, it rhymes. And then it was fully confirmed for me, or affirmed for me, when he takes the hood off, and it's Luke Skywalker. Second viewing, uncanny valley, but I appreciate them for doing that, because I know there are fans out there that have been waiting for this day since Return of the Jedi. George, we're not going to come to fisticuffs on this one. There will be a video where we do.
I've been expecting this all day.
Long have I waited, but I can understand people's frustration with it. Like, taking Last Jedi into it, I understand what Rian Johnson was trying to do, and I understand the point. But this is such a huge character, revered character, been a hero to a lot of people, like a major protagonist, in a revered trilogy. This was, kids' heroes growing up. So I'm really pleased that fans from back in the day have got to see Luke Skywalker. I'm pleased that I've got to see Luke Skywalker in his prime finally in live action in some way. I think that, if we wound the clocks back and this had been our Luke reveal in the sequel trilogy, who knows, maybe we'd be in very different territory now. Maybe the fans would be more okay with it and we wouldn't have a divide. I don't know, but I'm just, from my opinion, they did more justice to Luke Skywalker's character in 7 minutes of an ending of Mandalorian than they did in the entire sequel trilogy. That's my opinion. Not taking anything away from Mark Hamill in the sequel trilogy. He did the best of what he was given, but I think that, I don't know, Favreau and Filoni's heart seemed like it was in the right place for this one. Like, they were doing right by some of the fans.
I'm going to
Back it
insert Count Dooku. I've been looking forwards to this. I'm joking. No, it's interesting because this is the conversation, right? This is right now the Twitter conversation. Everyone's unanimous. They love this scene. I've said we've all cried. I'm happily willing to admit to that. And the keyword's Prime, right? So Battlefront 2 came out, and the campaign was there was good things that executed wrong. It was be the villain for brackets asterisk 10 minutes. You got this incredible scene of Luke, and it was Episode 6 costume Luke, and like, oh, this is like within a year of Episode 6, and like he's hunting Jedi artifacts, and he's got all this wisdom, and we're hearing all this new stuff from him, and I was like, that's pretty dope. And obviously, that's before Episode 8 come out. That's the same year Episode 8 comes out, and obviously, then we get Last Jedi. Now, I still love his Last Jedi arc. I love what made him become what he is. You know, the failure stuff. Everything that went into that, and I completely understand where everyone is coming from. Like, this is the Luke we wanted to see. This is the Luke that we grew up with, our hero. And I'm the same. I'm not making this as a dig. I'm making this my viewpoint on it. I think this enhances the Last Jedi stuff. That we've got Luke in his prime, right? It would be weird if Luke was doing this in his 60s. You know, Ben Kenobi. I'm not to say they're the same. They're very different. Luke's obviously the second most powerful Jedi in history after his father. And I don't know, because I love that we got to see Luke in his prime, but it would have been weird for me. It would have been more jarring to see him in his prime in the Last Jedi robes than he would have been in 5 years after Episode 6, right? I know people keep challenging the Thrawn trilogy. In terms of timing, they're not far off that. And it's that at this point in time, Luke is this, because in Return of the Jedi, he is the Jedi. He's become the Jedi in this film. But in his prime, he is not. And we're now seeing that. Now, I don't imagine this being something we'll see a lot. I'm going to be completely polite with Hamill. He's played the best PR game of the entire year. You know, I don't know how this process went. Maybe we'll find out in the gallery next week. He said when he did his only bit of press for Episode 9, this is my final appearance to Luke Skywalker. These scripts were written at the time that Season 1 came out. I think Mr. Hamill has known about him being the Mandalorian for a very long time. And I think he played the best PR blunder of the year. Not blunder, the opposite of blunder. He's played the best PR game of the year because no one for one moment thought that would be him. And Chris, you're right. The uncanny valley with the eyes, that really threw me, the face reveal. And I'm quite honest with me. I'm saying something about videos. I said it with Clue that even with Tron Legacy, which we uploaded yesterday to the channel, when they've brought in this character, they're not doing it in Tron because they can do it. Like the Marvel films, like here's a 1 minute cameo. We're doing it because we can. Tron Legacy, the villain is, you know, this guy's got a place in this film right now. Now, this is where the Luke stuff's interesting because in terms of the galaxy, yeah, it could have been Ahsoka, it could have been Ezra, it could have been these. But right now, from what we know, is, you know, Luke is the last Jedi after Episode 6. It kind of makes sense for it to be him. Granted, I didn't want it to be him, but I got to see Luke Skywalker in his prime. And that is one of the most incredible moments. And Christ, I want to say the history of cinema, but it's technically TV, right? This is what's insane. Like, forget it. Like, this is one of the best things I've ever seen. This scene, it was what I wanted. And that's the thing. Like, I love The Last Jedi, and I did think at the end of that film he was I'm gonna go out and take on the First Order by myself. When the AT-ATs were shooting bombs at him, I was expecting some like God mode, like Luke with his arms out, sending it all back. We didn't get that. I loved what we got instead. The whole Force projection stuff. That's the epitome of the Jedi Master. But Luke isn't, to me, a Jedi Master in right now. He is a Jedi in his absolute prime, becoming wise, becoming a Master. And I kind of like that. I get we're going to get those comparisons, but I think there's obviously like each people are going to have why they think that, and that's my kind of opinion on it, that this only enhances what we know happens down the line when he does take up a young Ben Solo and things go wrong. So in terms of that Last Jedi, I get exactly where both sides, because there's going to be people on the last, like, we didn't like what they did in that, and we did like what they did in that, and there is going to be both sides probably making the same points with one another. But I'm just pretty blessed that we got to see him. Don't get me wrong, I would have loved it to be Ezra, but the build up, the X-wing, I was like, surely not. Like, hand on head, and then it's the cape. I was like, it's going to be him. It's going to be him, and yeah, it's. I was many tears were spread throughout, and the problem is it's not even like a sucker punch, is it? It's like we're going to slap you with the Luke, we're going to slap you with the corridor scene, and then we're going to have the Mando Grogu moment where he must take him away, and it broke me.
I just thought it was exceptionally well played. I think you're right with the fact we've got to see Luke now shows you just how broken he was when we meet him in The Last Jedi. So I do think that is this is going to help build that character side of him for what he tells when he's shut himself off from the Force. I think it does certainly help. But back on this scene, this series of scenes, it was, like Chris said at the very beginning, it was so masterfully put together, so well cut to kind of like, he's here. We're going to kind of hint, there's an X-Wing turned up and it's just the ones. At first I thought it might be the space police who have been hanging around. I think, oh, it might be one of those turning up, like, okay, then I get that. Someone's turned up. And then obviously saw the cloak reveal. And it was like, that's, okay, I'm more hopeful. And then you're right, the lightsaber, like, and he's just cutting through those droids like there is nobody's business. Just gone through. And then you get that shot that suddenly it's the Jedi and it flicks the green lightsaber from everything it being just that white, and it was like, oh, it's him. And just watching I was flashback to being a child, and it was an instant like reaction, like guttural thing as well. Like you see reaction videos on YouTube and like they're all like, oh, and it was an immediate hands up to the face, not knowing, maybe not those noises, that was a different time. R2, that was,
or maybe it was.
Probably was. There were just tears. So yeah, it was just this amazing set of things. You're right, the corridor scene, he got his own when he came out the lift and all waiting for him, to the moment where he crushed the last one, just with the Force, just brought it together and concertinaed it. It was just wonderful. I agree with the Uncanny Valley thing. When he stood still and he took the hood off, it was pretty much perfect until he started to talk. Eyes weren't quite. The first thing I thought when I watched it first, I was like, blink, just blink, because it was like he'd been told there was some angels over there in stone that were going to get him if he didn't. So it was that was a bit uncanny. And when he started moving his mouth, it wasn't quite right.
It was like,
but as a still, when he wasn't saying anything, looked superb. I mean, yes, we're on TV version, so they haven't got all the money in the world to do what they did with Robert Downey Jr. in the Marvel films and really de-age him and look incredible. But I just, for the whole, they had the balls to do that in this show. Just, I forgive all of that for what I got. And R2 was also a crowning piece for me. It made me cry even more and even harder.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like the thing is, like, because it is Disney, I don't know why they can't just use the same effects team with Marvel. Because, Marvel at the beginning, like I remember there was that one shaky Robert Downey Jr. thing at the beginning of Civil War, which looked more plasticky than some of the other ones. But certainly recently, Samuel L. Jackson in Captain Marvel looked fantastic. Kurt Russell, I remember at the beginning of Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Granted, it's been ages since I've seen that, so I'm not sure how well that holds up. Sorry, but for the most part, Marvel have got it cracked. So I don't know why they couldn't just use that same team, because they're all at Disney's disposal at this point. Maybe it is a budget thing, but I mean, it seems like Disney have inexhaustible amount of money at this point. So why not splash out and make it look as good as it can? I'm going to be very interested though next couple of months to see, because deep faking has become very popular now on YouTube, and even people with
someone's going to do it,
on the computer. Yeah, someone's going to get, because it's there. They've got the foundations are there, and I'm sure that someone's just going to make it refined. You can find Tarkin ones and Princess Leia ones as well that they've done for Rogue One, which look miles better than they did in the original film. So R2 coming out, like, that was just, they could have just left it at Luke, let's be honest, but just R2 coming out as well, it was the double whammy. And the thing is, I mentioned this before we went live, I've never been a massive R2D2 fan. Like, I don't know, I've always preferred all the other characters. I've always felt R2 was a bit arrogant in, like, he doesn't even talk like properly, and I've attributed all this like personality onto him that I don't like him for some reason. But noises were made when Luke was fighting, and I was just frozen in like this position as I was watching it, and then it all came out when R2 rolled around and did his little bleep bloop. It was perfectly handled. I didn't even know we were going to get anything close to that at the end of this episode. And Carl mentioned earlier that, I don't know if I agree with this or not, this felt like a series finale rather than a season finale. They've caught the bad, and Grogu is now with the Jedi. It did feel pretty final, didn't it? Like, I could imagine like a big heartfelt goodbye being at the end of something like Mandalorian. But there are still loads of those plot threads that need to be tied up, especially the Bo-Katan stuff. Like that moment where you said the only real tension in the episode was that stand-up. That was great, and I thought that Katie Sackhoff played that brilliantly, both of them. Just how, nonchalant Mando was about it, the way he was holding it, just sort of, here you go, have this, and just that look like I am going to end your life in season 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I
more-
just
more-
want to jump in as well. Just one more point with the R2 thing as well. Grogu was clinging to the Mandalorian's leg even after he put him down for the last time to go with Luke until R2 came around. He recognizes R2, right? Because he was with Anakin.
Jedi Temple.
Wasn't Anakin around this Jedi Temple around the same
I thought that
sort of
it
era?
felt like a recognizable meeting as such, right? There wasn't, R2 was beeping side to side and whatnot, but maybe R2's not meant, but it certainly felt like, is there something I don't know? Like,
There was a familiarity between the two.
Yeah, I did get worried. I did get worried for a second. Like, God, I hope this isn't the origins of a droid story, a Star Wars Disney Plus series. But I don't think it will be. If C-3PO is here, then yes.
When Grogu finds out that his trainer is the son of the guy that killed all of his friends at the Jedi Temple. Is that going to be a conversation? I mean, R2 knows.
That's what R2 bleeped at him. You'll never guess who this guy is.
But oh no, that's the thing. That was a good one. And I'll tell you another thing. What I love. The last thing I'll say about Luke. Do you know what sold everything even more? Right. So the whole point of the Mandalorian, Chris, you mentioned earlier, he is the core of the story. He is the point of view. It's his story. When Fennec says, "Why on earth are you going to let this guy in?" They are all shitting themselves about this Jedi because they don't know that Baby Yoda's waiting for a Jedi to turn up. To those guys, the hell, this guy has just come in this ship, destroyed everything, and you want to let him in? I loved that, and it's such a minor detail. And then it's that whole, not many people have heard of a Jedi of this era. Now we know Fennec was around in Bad Batch, she probably has, but I love that ideology that, again, like the Jedi are so scarce, no one knows them, it's by legend or reputation. And to tie in with that, the fact that Mando knows, no, this guy has to come in because Baby Yoda needs Jedi. And I love that little Baby Yoda like ears pricking up as it all starts and everything. But the other bit that sold me on that scene completely was there was no, I'm Luke Skywalker, I'm here for the child. Yeah. There was none of that. There was no big brass. I mean, we got the great entrance, but there wasn't any of this. I'm going to say something that everyone at home needs to know. It felt like, no, this is what he would say in this situation. He's not going to introduce himself and say, I've done X, Y, and Z. It was a very simple, I've come for the child. He wants the permission. Let's go. I loved that he didn't overstay his welcome is probably the best for saying it, right?
Right, the music though in that bit where we got the Force theme as well, because we've seen that more. I think
if I start crying on this camera as well, it's going to be ridiculous.
It's like season 1 didn't do that, and I think the Ahsoka episode was the first one that started using some of those leitmotifs. We had Yoda's theme. I can't remember if it was. There was Ahsoka's theme as well from the animated stuff, but just hearing that Force theme finally, it's just like. We said in season 1, if you were going to do it, it was when Baby Yoda first used the Force and lifted up the Mudhorn. But they've saved it for Luke's appearance, and I'm like, I'm happy about that. That makes me happy. Maybe that was the plan from the beginning. Who knows? Like, Ludwig Göransson, he's a genius. It seems like he can apply himself to anything. So if all this was written and all planned out, and he knew where it was heading, maybe that's why he chose to hold off until that moment. I'm not sure.
Again, one final Gideon Luke thing. Sorry. The moment he knows his plan is fucked is when he peers over at the CCTV. Mm-hmm. And he just has this face like oh, I look again. I don't like that he went for the wrong targets and whatnot. That's maybe a different conversation. But if you wanted to go out in it with a bang, then you just take them with you. And I know he tried that with the child. Again, like when Mando does rent a baby, it's like, he's got the armor. Again, not to pick on her. That had been Gina Carano. It's like, oh my god, the self-sacrifice to save the child, and she's not actually the Mandalorian. It just felt like there was something missing to give that pull to Moff Gideon, do something pure evil, which we know he's done, but we haven't seen enough of it. And I love the old sort of Japanese Empire stuff. Like, he analyzes the situation. There's no way he's going to get out of this. And when he puts the gun up to his head under the chin, I was like, oh my word, they're not going to do this in Star Wars, are they? And I actually loved the little shunt up sort of maneuver. That was a great little moment. But aside from that, again, it's all built around those Luke stuff. It wasn't a ridiculous overreaction of Jane Close. It's like, oh my god, a Jedi. Like, oh no, it was like he's analyzing the situation in his head and he knows that there's no outcome for him. And it just adds to that illusion. And again, what's going to happen in season 3? We will find out.
I was going to say, go on, sorry, David.
No, I was going to say, and can we just say how masterful Pedro Pascal was? That
Yeah.
moment of acting with a puppet in his hands was, and the look in his eyes, he looked like a broken man that he was having to send his child away, and just beautiful. Just perfectly played.
And I think how it built on from that Bill Burr episode as well, where we saw the initial taking of the helmet off there. We saw that devotion that he has to saving that child and that bond that he has with it. And yeah, it's father and son stuff just gets me when it's done well in films, and it was perfect. And he's like, let me look upon you with my own eyes, and then just take the helmet off. And Baby Yoda does a little face caress with his fingers. It was fantastic. The music as well, carrying the motion. I was crying. I got very emotional at that moment. We know that he's going to get back with Baby Yoda, but Cole's brought a good comment here, sort of like season 3 speculation. Will the show now take a hit with the separation of Mando and Grogu? So I don't know if Mando season 3 is coming out alongside the Boba Fett spin-off, or if the Boba Fett spin-off is taking that December slot, sort of like November, December kind of slot away from Mando. And then Mando's going to come back the following year. I'm not sure how it's going to work. I think time away from Mando, as much as I love it, would be kind of nice. It would show that separation of time. Maybe it would be a bigger time jump where Baby Yoda has been training for X amount of years with Luke Skywalker, and it would help to distance us. But I actually think it would be good for the character of Mando. I want to see the character of Mando grow. Let's see what he's like on his own. Or maybe it would give time to develop some of these other characters. Now, it's difficult to say that because the entire 2 seasons so far have been built on this bond, this sort of like buddy road show almost with these 2 characters. So it's going to be very different going into it. But I think if you're going to deal with the Bo-Katan stuff, the Mandalore history, almost like the ending of Dark Knight, like they'll hunt you, you'll hunt me, you'll condemn me kind of thing, and he's going to be man on the run away from all these Mandalorians. I don't really know what place Baby Yoda would have in all of that. Really, the Baby Yoda characters served for cutesy fan service, eating delicious snacks, and needing to be trained by a Jedi, and that father and son connection with the main character. Now, he's got the Jedi. Mando's reached that point where he is comfortable taking off the helmet, so it kind of feels like it's mostly done. I don't really know what else you could tell with it. Like Baby Yoda would just be there as sort of set dressing at that point. I think
it feels the Mandalore stuff has to be the focus. Surely, at least the start of next series or to build to that. It just seemed the next logical step in that journey. Anything else would seem a bit off after, especially where we left the episode. Would seem weird to go in any other direction.
This is what I'm like, and this is where season 3 is going to interest me, because it is that I'm going to make another sequel comparison. Episode 8 had to start where episode 7 finished, right? A cliffhanger scene, we're passing over to you, it means it must be set right ASAP. You're not going to do a time jump in a Star Wars film. You can do it between them, not in it. And then episode 8 finished. Today's the UK 1 year anniversary of episode 9. Sorry, tonight will be in that 2 hours time. This is another story. But
watch along, anyone? No, I'm kidding. Why would I do
that? I always get that gripe, right? Is that episode 8 left it so open. You've got Rey as the light side with what's left of the Resistance against the Supreme Leader Kylo Ren and his army. That's all that was left. There was no story thread needs to be tied up. It was, this is broad A versus B. I feel we've got something similar in Mandalorian. Like, okay, so where do we want to go? Like, he's not got the child, he's done his mission, but where to? It's that kind of ending. And because we knew it's everyone like, oh, he's going to find a Jedi, or he's going to try to find a Jedi. Whereas now it's like, I wonder what their plan is, because they will have a plan. Filoni and Favreau, I trust completely with this. They obviously, and this is not to get into the sequel discussion, but we always said my biggest gripe with the sequels is that it was JJ7, Ryan 8, JJ9. It wasn't a consistent, this is the screenplay for 3 films. This is the core story for the 3 films. It was 7 comes on, 8 comes on, 9 comes on. It should have been JJ and all 3, or Ryan 8 and 9. It should have been one of those 2. It doesn't matter which one. Obviously, I know who I'd rather have had. But Filoni and Favreau, now whether that's Disney learning their lesson via a very hard way, which they have done in the past, it was Filoni, you've done Clone Wars, you've done Rebels, you've kind of done a bit of Resistance, which I'm not too familiar with, but it's like you're ready for live action, and we're going to partner you with Favreau. We know as a fan base that Filoni can do this long story arc, that he intended Rebels to be 4 seasons, he got to finish it when he wanted. And I was like, by pairing him with Favreau, these two guys are going to creatively bring this home. It's what I kind of said at the beginning of the episode, right? Peyton Reed got sort of a lot of flack for episode 2 of the series, but he's just being brought in as the director. He's not writing that. He's not storyboarding that. He's not doing everything for that episode. He's not just being given an episode to do what he wants. He's been brought in to direct their TV series. And I think that's why Mandalorian looks clear and precise. I think they do have a heading. Whereas after episode 8, I think Rian Johnson had his own heading. Colin Trevorrow had his own heading. And we ended up going completely elsewhere for a heading. So there's certainly lessons I think Disney have learned a very hard way without harping on that too much. I think we'll probably agree with that it does feel this is more concise. Granted, it's TV, there's more time, but it feels that collaboratively there's no issue upstairs, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I'm intrigued to see where they want to go, because we do have the odd thread. Is Gideon going to? We know we're going to get a Baby Yoda back. Is it going to be in episode 2, 3, 4, or 1? We don't know, but there will be a scene when they go back. But it's going to be, what can they do to justify the need to bring him back? That's where the story lies right now, right? What's going to be the threat that he must go see him? Could it be Gideon? Could it be an evil Bo-Katan? Could it be anything? So I'm very intrigued to see what they want to do as my kind of initial season 3 thoughts. I think it's very open, but I maintain I can't remember my complete prediction from last year, but I've always said to you guys, he will get the Darksaber and he will end up the ruler of Mandalore. It'll be the reluctant leader, the ending of Riddick. He's got the damn Darksaber now. Get that Hasbro merchandise out right now. Because I just want to see him wield a damn lightsaber. It's like it was like when Luke picked up Baby Yoda in one hand, and in the other he had like a lightsaber. I was like, that's like Fast and Furious 9 again. Like, just keep going with it. But as far as season 3 goes, I've got no idea where they're going to go. I don't know who's involved. There could be some new people involved, but I've got absolute faith in those two people showrunning that to bring in the directors they want and to keep progressing with this story. It'd be interesting with Filoni. Sorry, it's a very side piece. Never spoke a lot about season 3. I think he's going to be showrunner on Ahsoka. I think he'll direct a lot of the Ahsoka episodes. I still think he'll be involved in Mando, but wouldn't surprise me if there's a story that's been planned over a couple of years and we're sort of halfway through it now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think, I don't have problems with sort of seasons or films ending conclusively. Like I always talk about, like Terminator 1, just take the first 2, for example, because that's all you need. Terminator 1 ends conclusively. You can watch that as a single film. X amount of years later, we have T2, great continuation, and ends conclusively. So there are examples of films that can pick up the thread of where you thought it had completely ended before and do something great with it. So I don't think this is a problem for it at all. Carl did confirm to me, though, that Mandalorian Season 3 and Boba Fett shows are going to run concurrently together, side by side in 2021. Is that going to be too much to juggle? I'm going to get them both watched anyway, but this is what we said, like Arrow and Flash, as I just mentioned, where one might feed into the next one or cross over, and you've got to watch episode 3 of the Boba Fett show before you watch this episode. If it starts getting into that, it might be a bit too much to manage. But no, in terms of like season 3 predictions, where I think it might go, I think they're going to have Gideon in custody. I think he's going to be in is it the New Republic? Is that what we're calling it? It's New Republic, right? Yeah, he's going to be in custody of the New Republic. I think Mando, I won't say he's lost his purpose, but his purpose was to protect that child. That child is now in protection of someone else. So maybe he's just doing the odd jobs for the New Republic and he's helping them out, or maybe he goes back to what he was doing before and is just sort of doing bounty hunting jobs on the side. So yeah, I think there are a lot of places it can go, and I think it's going to be, fresh. It's going to be fertile ground to develop Mando as a character, and then obviously, I think the Mandalore stuff is going to take front and center into that next one. Talking about things that were set up and sort of like no payoff, would have liked to seen the little ball he picked up out of the wreckage of his ship come back again. Maybe he gives it to Baby Yoda as like a last little parting gift. Or maybe Baby Yoda's like, no, you keep it to remember me. But I don't know. That would have been nice. Something like that. I think there's lots of places it can go. I guess we can talk about the Boba Fett little tease that we got at the end now, because that's the one big thing that we need to talk about.
What's the Boba Fett tease? I only know the Book of Boba.
Oh, they need to work on
the
that.
Book of Boba.
Is it too late to change that title? It might be too late now. We've got it in the episode. It's number 1, Jabba's Palace. I know that Jabba there isn't there now, but I'm still going to call it Jabba's Palace. His security is shocking. Like last time, like fair play, like it was Luke Skywalker strolling in, force choking Gamorrean guards, but like there's no excuses this time. There are about 2 other guys in that room. Like what the hell? But like Bib Fortuna, Matt, that those 5 years, maybe they have been kind to him. Like he's ruling Jabba's palace. Somehow he got away from the sail barge before it exploded. Don't know how that happened. It's not on Wikipedia at the moment. Maybe we'll get a separate graphic novel or book or something that's going to explain the many Fortuna.
By the looks of him, he was actually in the KFC on Tatooine. He's actually just drinking gravy.
He is corpulent in this. It's great. One shot it killed, and then we get the lounging cool. It's the end of Conan the Barbarian, right? Taking the throne and just sitting there, just waiting. I guess it's a cool tease, but it did feel like a teaser trailer. I don't think we really needed that at the end. They could have released that mid-year and just gone, oh, a Boba Fett show's happening. The rumors were true. It's fine. I don't know how I feel about a Boba Fett show, and this was going to be my concern, and we're seeing it happen already. Mandalorian, George, you've said this, is going to be a vehicle to spin countless other Star Wars TV shows off. They're doing Ahsoka. Now we're getting Boba Fett. This was, amongst the myriad of Star Wars films that were announced, this one wasn't announced, and we're getting another one. I'm worried. That is one of my concerns, that it is just going to be sort of milk dry of all these spin-offs and everything, like an MCU kind of thing. And I don't think that model works well for Star Wars. I'm a bit concerned about that. But I mean, it's more Star Wars to watch. I do actually like the gap between Star Wars though, and I've been looking forward to sort of Mandalorian year to year, and that was enough for me. But now we're going to have 2 Star Wars shows, so we'll see how that goes.
The Book of Boba Fett. Where do I start? I think I texted you saying like, oh, when at Jabba's palace, I was expecting some like mad, like ultimate cameo, like, oh my god, Boba's lived at like Jabba's wreckage for like 5 years. That's why no one heard of him, because he's just lived at the palace alone. And I was like, oh no, I was wrong. And I don't know how I feel about this, because my main concern is exactly what I said of Disney. Disney Plus is a phenomenal streaming service. It's grown so much. All of their content comes out on Fridays, never any other day. I think the only time they've had one-off content was the launch days, which were Tuesdays. It's never actually, and May the 4th, they did obviously Clone Wars. My concern is if you're spitballing Marvel, Star Wars times 2, Marvel times 2, the aim of this many new content a week, a year, whatever, please don't drop them on Fridays. I know it's a minuscule thing. I really hope this Boba Fett thing, for Savior's sake, is basically what I want the Lando series to be, which is like, we can have the Calrissian Chronicles. At least if they're going the Book of Boba, then we're guaranteed the Calrissian Chronicles is a title, no questions asked. But if it's going to be like a Boba Fett, this is what I did for like 30 years story thing, like, cool, we could get a young Daniel Logan, and I'd like to see Daniel Logan come back and stuff. And I don't know, but it doesn't. I'm not excited because we've got a series about a Mandalorian called The Mandalorian, and The Mandalorian is a show because of Favreau and Filoni's love of Boba Fett when they were younger. They both said that in their interviews, and I'm just kind of there like, I've loved Tamora Morrison this season. They've developed him into a character, but I don't think Boba Fett is someone that can pull off his own TV series. To me, it's as simple as that, and I don't want to sort of critique it for that because I've enjoyed the character, but I'm concerned for this one. I know it's already filming. I'm excited to see, if anything, more of Ming-Na Wen. I mean, it's just going to be in that Bad Batch series, which, again, another reason to look forward to that's not actually about the Bad Batch is the other people in it. But yeah, I think that credit. I mean, when Phil texted me after the show, I think we must have finished the parallel same time, a minute ahead, and he's like, "There's a credit scene," because I was recovering from the Luke stuff still. Like, I just sat there like, "Oh my god, there's no concept art. Our thumbnail is screwed for today." But I think we're doing all right. Yeah, I don't know how I feel because there's a credit scene. I was like, "Oh, is this like going to be like a nice epilogue or something?" And it was cool. I was like, "Oh, a Boba Fett announcement." The first ever Star Wars credit scene, it was a Boba Fett TV series announcement. Now, had you have had this, 20 years ago, there's a dry desert on Tatooine, and there's this really depressed man, and it's a revealing shot of a certain someone, I'd probably carry on crying. But no, the Boba Fett was like, oh, it's happening. What a title name. Oh, December 2021. Brilliant. At the same time as Mandalorian Season 2. Yeah, I know where all the frustrations are and the worries. And it's the fact that they announced everything last week and it was going to be like, we're not going to announce this one. This one's going to be a really cool reveal for next week. And I'm kind of there like, oh, we've had our discussion. but I really just don't see the point of this one. I know we can say the same about a lot of these shows. Some of them, there are characters where I would love to learn more about them to enhance their story experience from being in the main films, but Boba's had that in the Clone Wars. He's had it in the Mandalorian as well. Why does he need his own show? I don't think he does.
The thing I took from it most was, wow, Jabba's palace looks awesome, just as I remember it. And that was kind of my main take from it. Like, the nostalgia again of being in that room was like, oh, that's nice. But other than that, it was like, take it or leave it. And then the title came, was like, yep, I'll probably leave it. I'll totally watch it. And when my book of Boba Fett tattoo is completed next year, it'll be...
No, the Boba Fett fans are everywhere. They're all going to start adding the book in front of their tattoos now.
Well, is it called book because the episodes are in chapters? It's not called the book of though, is it? Like, we got the book of Obi-Wan. Like, let's just go nuts. Let's just release like an whole anthology of them.
I would love it to be like, sorry, it's a really passing, like, irrelevant final comment on that. If anyone remembers the original Battlefront 2, like, let's just have a Tamura Morrison like voiceover of like, I can't do the accent, but like, it's war, and it's like, here's my narration in my accent of us going into battle. I was like, I'd take a series of Tamura Morrison narrating battles of Boba Fett, but I also don't want it. We don't need it.
Speaking of a voice, that was a cool moment, I thought, in this episode, just going back to the beginning, where Bo-Katan says, like, I recognize that voice or something. Like, I've heard that voice many years ago. I was like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I like
it's like there are thousands of you. It's like your donor. It's like, oh, savages.
Yeah. Don't talk about my daddy like that. Like, yeah, no, it was great. But yeah, no, the ending teaser, I was just like, oh, back on Tatooine again, the old familiar places. I know it's Jabba's palace and it's like a different location, but it's still Tatooine. I'm still counting that. Paul says it's going to be weird having two Mandalorian shows at the same time. Yeah, that's another thing as well. And also,
this one's green.
Yeah. Oh, don't get me started on that paint job again on the mask. It's just like, okay, so we've got the premise. Like, Boba's going to be like the head of this bounty hunters guild. I guarantee you're going to get like cameos from the other bounty hunters from Empire Strikes Back, because remember those guys? You've got to bring those guys back. So you're going to be that. And the thing is as well, like, I don't want to harp on Tomorrow Morrison, but do you really want to see like geriatric Boba Fett? Like, it's not really Boba Fett in his prime, is it? Like, let's be fair. Like, this isn't Boba Fett in his prime. It's just
it's a nice epilogue what we've had in the Mandalorian. That's what I've liked. Is like, okay, Tomorrow's had the chance to come back. He's done something with this character. We've got a bit of history. We've got a bit of action. We've had a seismic charge. I was like, I don't understand what more they can give, unless they're going to go through him in his prime, which is pointless because we've got a series about a bounty hunter in his prime called the Bloody Mandalorian. Yeah, it's that, and that's the. I don't think Tamura Platypus got the not ability, but the character and the cast. They don't strike me as we can lead a TV series. When they announced this, is like Pedro Pascal's leading, so I was like, yes, that could be excellent. Him in Star Wars, and look where we are now. And I don't until we've got more news. As I said, I think that was a clip from an episode they showed us, but it's done nothing for me.
I would say Hutties is a very malleable language as well, because Bib Fortuna uses a line that Sebulba says in episode 1. I can't remember the exact translation of what he said. And drops
McClunky.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, McClunky.
That was the best bit of the tease for me, was the McClunky drop. George Lucas's last greatest farewell into the sunset of dealing with Star Wars. But yeah, I don't know what else I can say on this episode, really, or indeed the teaser. It hasn't really got me jazzed for the teaser, but as an episode, I thought it was a fitting season finale. It wasn't the best episode. I would like improvements for season 3. I feel like taking notes, like here are my notes. Disney, take them or leave them. I'd like to see more tension, more risks. Characters, lose some characters, just lose the baggage. Dave, you mentioned
Gina Carano.
Or maybe we could have that scene where, if she had got like one shot in this, another character that gets a medal in death, just like, here's your medal, you have earned it, Cara Dune, you shall be a ranger of the New Republic, and then like cut to credits, and then new show coming 2022. Yeah, I don't know. just take some chances, lose some characters, just make me feel that concern that I did back at the end of season 1 in the finale of that with the characters. But in terms of the narrative driving it, getting bigger, like I'm absolutely fine with that, but I do want them to keep the fan service to a minimum. I think season 2 maybe is fine. You've created your starting point for these shows now. Now ease back. Let's learn more about these characters. Maybe I want to learn more about Cara Dune before they kill her off. Maybe I want to learn more about Apollo Creed and changing it up and let me see Mando on his own and get to know him as an individual rather than just as a pairing of, it's Mando and Baby Yoda together. So I'm hopeful for the next season. I think it's going to be a big shake-up, and maybe that's what the show needs. So looking forward to it. Not so much for the Boba Fett spin-off.
Yeah, I'm kind of echoing that. I thought it was a fun episode, not the best of the series, one of the best Star Wars moments ever, but I think it was a fair ending for season 2. Maybe not my favorite episode of season 2. I think chapter 9 is going to be another shout for that for me. Phenomenal.
We could talk about what our favorite one is.
I can give you a top 3. I can tell you it's chapter 9. I'm not going to do chapters. The episode 1 of the Crate Dragon is just unbelievable. I'm going to give it to Bill Burr for last week, still fresh in my mind. The Bill Burr episode is, to me, up there, all just for him, down to that one performance. And then I'm probably going to tee that up with maybe today. Maybe today's the third best of the series. I need to have maybe a deeper think, but top 3. I think Crate Dragon by not Country Mile. That sounds unfair. I think watching that Crate Dragon episode was just remarkable. Seeing that on TV, that took me to a new level. That set the tone of what's to come for not just Mandalorian but TV heading forwards. And I don't think I can top that.
The Crate Dragon was mine as well. I thought it was absolutely exceptional for that sort of scale on a TV show. Was just unimaginable. Even when the second season of Mandalorian started, you knew they were doing great things with what they had, but it was just phenomenal, and that's my top episode. I did love the Luke moment, is right up there, but just the back half of the episode, just that Luke section and Artie was incredible. Journey back to my childhood, and yeah, but that's for me the first episode was by far the best of the season.
Carl's shared his favorite. He says it was the Carl Weathers episode. I think that was the Siege, wasn't it? Was that
yeah, Siege. That was a good one.
That was, and that's the thing. Like, all of them had good moments. I'm trying to think of overall as an episode contained. I think mine would probably be the Crate Dragon episode as well, just because even to this day, I was blown away by that set piece. Like, I haven't seen anything like that in Star Wars before. You've seen Stormtroopers, you've seen Jedi and everything, but that, I was like, that is unique to this, and I haven't seen that in any of them. So I think that's I love Timothy Oliphant's character in it as well. So
yes.
Probably say as a solid episode, beginning to end, that would probably be my favorite. But other moments, the tragedy, Bill Burr, like I'd say he's my favorite character, or like favorite character moments and actual scenes where characters were just left to breathe and just be established. That 180 I spoke about last time, where I didn't like him in season 1, just Bill Burr. I actually see him as a character now. That was a big thing for me as well. So, and then I just sort of like, overall, would you say it's better than season 1 or anything like that, or would you just say it's completely different?
I think it's been a better series overall. I think the overarching story has been much better done. It has actually flowed as this one big story rather than Villain of the Week story. We'll link these two later, but now I'll have Villain of the Week. This has been a much smoother ride through, and I've much more enjoyed the series than last.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm in the same boat. I think season 2's got more quality. I mean, the filler was the one we throw around. At least chapter 5 and 6 have had payoffs to a point in this series. But chapter 5 is still, to me, one of the lowest points of this thing. And I think this has felt tighter. The overarching story has felt neater. It hasn't felt as much as gaps between. I think they've been able to put forwards that extra money into the spectacle, into the performances, and bring in new people. I think season 2's delivered on what was set up in season 1. I think it's helped push the limits of what, not, I hate using the word expectation, but the last thing you want is, you get so many great shows where season 1's excellent and 2, 3, 4 onwards are sad, and then they eventually get cancelled because they're abysmal. And for the best series of all time, I'm not saying this is anywhere near that, but you always get a good series 1, and then they push off that for the following seasons. Breaking Bad's probably the best example of that. And I think Mandalorian's got signs of being a great series when you've had a good season 1 and season 2's followed that up and done more. So optimistic for season 3. I've got a lot of faith in them. But I think season 2 just triumphs it in terms of characters and story, as well as obviously spectacle and Star Warsy things.
I think the story and flow definitely wins it over for me, that season 2 is better than season 1. I think it ultimately depends in what you like. If you enjoyed that episodic, disconnected feel of season 1 for the most part, it doing its own thing, then I can understand why you might like that more self-contained feel to the overall quality of season 1. and maybe you dislike all these characters being brought back and spin-offs being made in season 2, and I can completely understand that as well. It's definitely grown a lot bigger now, and as long as it keeps the focus on Mando, I do think that the focus shifted here and there throughout the second series, but judging how it's going to maybe lead into the next one, I think hopefully they can bring it back and get a really good character-centric series on Mando. So we'll have a year to wait, and as well, the years seem to go by quicker and quicker, so I'm sure we'll be there in no time at all. That'll do it for our review, though, on not just this episode, but Mando season 2 as a whole. I'm sure we'll have more content to fill the Friday void now, but we want to hear from you guys now. Let us know what you thought of this episode, this season overall, and where you think it's going to head. Be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe as well. Really, really close to those subscriber goals, so please just spread the word as much as you can, and continue to join us on our series of next reviews, which will be tomorrow. We have a review tomorrow, so we're going to be diving into the Karate Kid films, starting with the original 1984 classic tomorrow. It's going to be a blast going through those. We're going to go through all of the original films, season 1 of Cobra Kai, season 2. I can't wait to rewatch those 2 series, and then that's going to take us into the brand new series in January for season 3, and that's going to be a lot of fun, so hopefully you guys can join us for those. Big thank you to you, Dave, as well, for jumping on with us again tonight and seeing us through strong with the
anytime.
And if you want to share some channels where people can find you and a bit about your channel.
Yeah, I'm a partwork model builder. If you want to go to my channel and watch that kind of thing, if it doesn't bore you too much. You can find me on YouTube at The Life of Brian, same on Instagram, Facebook, all of that jazz. And yeah, hopefully maybe in the future you'll see me back here too, because I'm kind of getting my feet under the desk now a little bit. Yeah, cozy.
Absolutely. Glad to have you back on the show. And for our socials, it's just Cinema Savvy at Facebook, Twitter at cinema_savvy, and we do have a TeePublic link in the description down below if you'd like to pick up any merch. George, I might have to pitch some more shirt ideas to you. We had some recommendations on yesterday's live stream, so a big thank you to everyone who's joined us in the comments tonight. Carl, Christian, Elizabeth, it's great to get the conversation going. We will be back next time, so take care, everyone. Thanks for watching.